Welcome to Just 15 Minutes, a space where leaders share the real practices that keep them steady under pressure. My name is Eric Bomyea, and today I'm joined by Abbe Feitelberg, Chief People Officer at Mindful Health Solutions. Welcome, Abbe.
Morning.
All right, so before we dive into our discussion, will you join me for a drop in practice?
Absolutely.
Okay, so inspired by your levity, we're going to do a ha breath. We'll take 3 breaths together. We'll start in through the nose and let it out with a ha. In through the nose. A double ha. Ha ha.
Ah,
Last one. In through the nose. Ha ha ha.
haha. We're all good.
Well, thank you for joining me for a little bit of levity with our haha practice. Let's dive on in. So, we've talked before about apathy, and I've noticed it in my own facilitation, even in as I'm dropping in with guests, that apathy can sometimes take root and it feels a little bit like autopilot or like my care level just isn't there. And so I have to really catch it. I have to catch that moment when I feel care starting to dip and really bring back my presence and attention to it. And so I just want to hear from you about your experience with apathy and how that has shown up in your life and in your work.
Yeah, it's a great question and it's a great space to think on. The spaces where it has really shown up for me is within the context of what I like to think of as compassion fatigue. I have historically had professional roles that involve caring for other people in a lot of different spaces. So, starting as a public defender and then moving into more of a people focused HR space, and then moving up through that HR leadership. What has happened in those spaces where the bulk of my professional work involves caring for others when things are not going well, is that there comes a point when I may have internalized those things to such an extent that it's not it's not burnout. It's not this big catastrophic incident. It really turns into apathy. And that doesn't mean that I don't care about the work that I'm doing. It means that I start to have questions about whether the work I'm doing matters and the way that I'm doing it matters, and if specifically my doing it matters. And that happens when you deal with a lot of difficult things for other people um, for most of your day. It also happens sometimes when you run into a really challenging situation where you've helped somebody or have done your best to help them and the outcome wasn't what you hoped for. And anytime you're dealing with people, there are always a lot of variables. Um, and so really coming to put that name to it and understand that when it has happened, it is because I haven't had the space or the latitude or the permission to care for myself the same way I'm caring for other people and step back from some of those challenging situations and use the tools and resources that I've built over the years.
Yeah, there's an imbalance of giving and receiving, right? If you've given so much compassion, but you haven't received that yourself, whether that is from others or just from yourself, filling up your own cup, you're just constantly pouring out. And if
Yeah,
you are pouring from an empty vessel, right?
and I don't think any of us within the people space or any of those professions where we are caring for other people, solving challenges for other people, giving other people space to go forward, I don't think we do it because we want the thank you or we need the thank you. I think we do it because we do genuinely want what's best for people and best for organizations. Um, and so part of it is needing to find those spaces where we're able to reset and recharge and go forward and take value from the work we're doing and the way we do it without cheering that thank you. Because when people are calling, it's generally because something isn't going well. There may not always be space for them to say that thank you.
space to allow yourself to reconnect to the purpose or the drive behind the what it is that you're doing. And so, what are some of the things that help you to reconnect with that in those times that there could be a little bit of compassion fatigue creeping in?
The first of those is to acknowledge that it happens, and it generally happens to everyone. I haven't met anyone who works very heavily in a people focused field that doesn't experience that. And so, being okay acknowledging it, being okay to say there are going to be days, there are going to be times when everything isn't okay with me and I need to take a pause. And so I think it's acknowledgement. There's also recognition of when it's happening. And hopefully it's recognition before it goes too far down a road. And it's really that recognition of what do I need to do today so I can come back and do this tomorrow? And if that means I need to close a computer, if that means I need to turn off notifications, if that means I need to say, I'm not doing this for the rest of the day because I need space for me, that's okay. We can't all do that all the time, and that's fair and valid. And I don't pretend that everyone can just, hands up and walk away for the afternoon. But recognizing that that's important and that's valid and that's okay. Um, and then when I think of tools and resources, there's a number of things, and it's recognizing where you recenter, where you reset, what does that for you. For some of us, it's exercise. For some of us, it's, curling up for a book or a podcast or a movie for a while. For some people, it's time with your people. Um, there's also really important space in debriefing those things that are challenging for us. And it's having a buddy, it's having someone that you can reach out to and say, I had a challenging interaction. I feel that I've had a lot of them lately, and I don't need you to solve it. I just need to be heard about it and have that engagement be recognized. The last thing I really like to think of is something I picked up from an elementary school I was fortunate to spend time at in a previous role. And the first time I walked into that building and kind of their big open space, they had a really big fish tank and a box of granola bars and snacks. And I was talking to the principal, and I said, "What's up with the fish tank?" Because it just seemed like another thing that needed to be cared for in a building full of people that needed to be cared for. And she said, it's something we found for our kiddos here, that they have, they're little people with a lot of big feelings, and there's a lot of ask of those little people on a pretty regular basis. And what they found was that carving out space where they didn't have to ask for permission and they didn't have to explain why, they could just go get the fish pass and sit for 15 minutes and watch the fish swim and have a snack and recenter themselves, and to build that level of awareness in little kids. These were 6, 7-year-old kiddos. To build that level of awareness of I need to step away from something that is challenging for me right now without having to justify it was really impactful for me. And so I always encourage teams I work with, teams I lead, organizations I work with, figure out what your fish pass is. And it might be different for every person, but figure out what works for your team to reset, figure out what works for you to reset, and really build in that fish pass where people have space to do what they need without any explanation or need to justify it.
Yeah, I love that. A through line that I'm hearing right now is radical permission and radical acceptance. One, radical acceptance that we will all experience some version of compassion fatigue. So recognizing that it does happen, and then giving radical permission to take care of yourself and learning what it is that works for you, and again, more radical acceptance and acknowledgement that it's different for every person. There's no one size fits all. It's very personal. And I think having conversations with people to open up the possibility that it could be a fish tank for one person, it could be a walk for another, it could be a meditation, it could be a breathwork practice, it could be 15 minutes of standing yoga. There's a lot of tools that we have at our disposal to figure it out.
I think that point is really important, that the things that we need and the things that can give us that reset to say, I want to and can come back to this tomorrow, aren't always really big things. It's not, sweeping everything off the desk and running away to Fiji for 2 weeks. Sometimes it truly is that I'm going to sit for 5 minutes, and I'm not going to look at screens, and I'm not going to answer questions, and I'm not going to think through the 10 other things I need to do. I'm going to allow myself that space. And so I think that having those smaller things that we can all do, and recognizing that sometimes the reset is a very small, discrete space, um, can be really, really powerful.
Absolutely. There's just such beauty in acknowledging that, and acknowledging overall that apathy is a thing, burnout is a thing. We will eventually hit those points. We don't always have to hit those points, though. We can take care of ourselves along the journey, recognizing when we start to feel the signs of apathy or the signs of burnout, and then taking conscious action from there. And so, as we get close to the end of our 15 minutes, I'm wondering if you would share some of the actions that you take and some of the signals that you receive when you're getting close.
Absolutely. One of my activities, I think the space where I am most able to um, meditate and turn off everything else is on my road bike. And whether that's in my trainer or outside, there's something very calming to me about connecting with my bike and connecting with the road and listening to the chain go and shifting and having that practice for myself. And when there are spaces where I don't want to do that, that is a big sign for me that something is off. And part of that is taking a step back and recognizing these are all of the things that I do day in, day out for other people. And what's happening in that space that I don't want to do the thing that is usually what makes me happiest in the world. And so knowing what that is and being able to take that step back, um, and then approaching it in a different way. Um, I have a cycling computer that sits on my handlebars, and I can see every data point about my ride. There are points when I need to just put it away and ride because it makes me happy to go down a hill really, really fast. Um, just being able to connect on a very basic level. And so I think recognizing the things that we all do that make us happy and understanding when they're starting not to, and being able to pull back from that. I also find tremendous value in giving others that same permission. I always encourage the people that I am fortunate enough to lead and work with to be okay raising their hand and saying, I'm not okay. I need help. I feel underwater, whatever that is. Knowing that there is a trust there, that they feel comfortable telling me that and allowing me to support them indicates to me that they know they don't own everything, and they can't own everything, and they shouldn't own everything. And so I think some of those spaces that are really easy, and that easy piece is important. I don't think the things that we do to avoid compassion fatigue and the things that we do to reset need to be really complicated. They're not rocket science. We're caring for ourselves the same way we care for everybody else, and making sure that we're doing that and being cognizant of it and having permission to do it.
Beautiful. Well, I feel so privileged and so blessed to I feel inspired to continue to take care of myself and just ride. I love that idea too of not doing it out of performance or not doing it out of I have to, but doing it because I'm choosing to, because I love to do it, and getting back to that both personally and professionally. Abby, thank you, thank you, thank you for being here today. I'm going to close out the space. And you can join me by bringing any gesture of reverence that is comfortable for you. It is with deep appreciation and gratitude that I thank all the mentors, teachers, and guides that came before us, that have led us to this moment, that will lead us to continuing to move on our paths to touching and influencing and inspiring others. It is with deep appreciation and gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you.